Good morning. Welcome. This is Violet Camacho, live at the Missoni Baia Sales Center in Miami, Florida. I want to welcome you guys to a very special webinar. We have a stellar panel of superstars in the real estate realm of architecture, design. We're super excited, so I'm going to get right into it and start introducing our panel. First, we have Paris Farino. She's head of Paris Farino Interior Design, New York based. Paris Farino Interior Design launched in 2012. One second. She is a full-time service international design firm specializing in luxury real estate, hotel, restaurant projects. Farino brings 15 years of experience, including 10 years with Tiffany Design, Cetra Rudy Architecture, to complex high-end commissions, which currently include more than 40 projects in the United States, Canada, Europe. Farino has been published El Decor in the New York Post, which ranked hers as one of the top 4 firms in designing New York City in 2015. Welcome, Paris.
Hi, Violet.
We're really excited to have all of you today with us. Thank you. Next, we have design architect from Asymptote Architecture, Hani Rashid. Founded in 1989 by Hani Rashid and Lise Ann Couture, New York-based Asymptote, forgive my pronunciation, architecture in practices is an international practice distinguished by intelligent visionary designs informed by cutting-edge technology. The firm's recent projects include Yas Viceroy Hotel and Abu Contemporary Museum in Moscow. Asymptote's work is included in the collections of the Museum of Modern Art, the Center of Pompidou, and Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, among others. Welcome, Hani. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here.
Following, we have Enzo Enea, landscape architect from Enea Garden Design. Since establishing his firm in 1993, renowned Swiss landscape architect Enzo Enea has completed more than 1,000 gardens for private residences, hotels, resorts, residential buildings, and parks around the world, including projects in Russia, Greece, France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Austria, China, Brazil, Colombia, the Bahamas, and the United States. Based near Zurich, the firm opened a second office in Miami in 2005 and is adding a New York office in 2016. Enea's work has received numerous international awards, including honors from the American Society of Landscape Architects and the RHS Chelsea Flower Show in London. Welcome. Joining us, Angela, where are you joining us from?
From the factory, from the Missoni headquarters.
In Italy?
Yes.
Oh, welcome. Welcome. It's great to have you. Everyone, please welcome Angela Missoni, Creative Director and President of Masoni. The Masoni brand is very much synonymous with the Missoni family. Angela Missoni, the founding couple's daughter, took over from Rositas as the firm's creative in 1997 and now leads the legendary label. As the creative force behind the entire house of Missoni, Angela has taken the company in new directions while remaining true to its heritage. She developed a new way to approach the Missoni image and communication, establishing a new position for the brand in the world of fashion. Angela has initiated a new and important collaborations with talents like Karen Roitfeld, Mario Testino, Edward Ninfol, Mario Sorrenti, Mert and Marcus, and Jürgen Teller, Vivian Sasson, Mark Barthwick, and Harley Bartner. Most recently, she has worked with Oscar-winning Italian director Paolo Sorrentino and actress, model, and philanthropist Alyssa Sednawi to launch the latest Missoni fragrance worldwide. Welcome, Angela. We are so delighted to have you. So I wanted to just start with you guys and see how are you guys doing during this time. Where are you guys based right now? I'll start with you, Paris.
Sure. Hi, Violet. I'm here in New York City on 7th Avenue in Midtown. We moved into some beautiful new offices March 13th of this year, which was awful timing because then we couldn't come to our office. But we're doing very well. I mean, business is staying very, very strong through this pandemic, which is fantastic. The same can't be said for a lot of industries out there. So I think people are investing in in their homes and in design. And yeah, we're doing okay. Some of us are working from the office. Some people prefer to stay at home. But yeah, we're here in New York City. It's going strong. So
Well,
yeah.
we're happy to hear that. Honey, where are you in the world right now?
I guess technically we're also in New York. We're just over the river in Brooklyn. But yeah, we're back in our offices as well, and yeah, we're doing great. We're doing fine. We actually have a bit of a surge of work, strangely enough, and we're doing a lot more traveling these days by virtue of Zoom. And I thought I did a lot of traveling without Zoom. So yeah, it's working out fine, and we hope that this whole second wave doesn't really get traction.
100%. I think the world is in pause right now. And Enzo, please tell me about you. Where are you joining us?
Well, I'm in Munich at the moment, and I just came here for, let's say, for the next 2 days to check out our buildings going on, our gardens and parks that we are building in Germany. And I took the chance because they're closing around us, Europe, down at the moment because they're waiting for the next wave coming. So it's going to be a bit more tough in the next few months because it's getting cold outside and people get more COVID, and that's the situation now. But we are fine. We have our headquarters in Zurich that has a big park with a lot of trees, with a lot of oxygen that they give us. So let's say we are quite safe.
Hi.
Thank you, Enzo, for sharing that. I'm going to do Angela's introduction. Tell us what the world looks like for you in Italy right now.
Oh, it looks scary actually at the moment, really. Yeah, the COVID cases are growing faster in the last weeks. So we are kind of worried. Yeah, not the best situation.
Absolutely. I think that's been the consensus across this panel, everywhere, where everyone is right now. We are super excited to have you all together in this panel. Thank you for making the time. This project is, I'm in Miami at the Sales Center, and this project is very special. Of course, you see the tower behind me. And I wanted to get right into the vision and how this started. I'm going to start with you, Angela. Well, Missoni is a renowned worldwide premier Italian fashion house. Can you delve a little deeper into your role as creative director and president of Missoni? How do you continue to evolve a brand that's maintained its reputation for 60 years?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say hi to everybody. Everybody's here with me on this, Hani, Paris, and my friend Enzo, yes.
Ciao.
And who's probably the closest, right? Are you the closest
Yes.
at the moment? Yes, exactly, yeah. And so you would like to know, of course, it's a question I've been asked since the beginning of my career. How did I manage to? And honestly, I didn't have a recipe at the beginning, and I just was following my instinct, and probably having had parents which were really revolutionary and very, very open-minded, and I grew with a lot of freedom, and so in fact I felt, and plus very curious. I was always been a very curious child and teenager, and I know the archive by heart. I know every single piece in the archives, and I know every single event that happened at Missoni since my very early age. And I know every detail of every piece of garment that has been created in those years. And so, in fact, I never went to the archives to do research. And I always started collection from scrap, from new mood boards, and then made link with the past. They said, oh, but this reminds me this and this. And I went to look for certain pieces, asking exactly that and that piece, giving it the exact year on top of it. I'm really precise with my memories. And I'm very detailed. I realized later, of course, I didn't know that that would have been my strength probably, but that has been my strength. And the other thing is that I never felt scary in introducing new graphism or new shapes of clothing. I always felt that everything I was making was Missoni. So that I was including my point of view inside the collection, and maybe that's what kept the spirit of the collection ahead with its times. Yeah,
I mean,
probably because I leave it to others to judge, because honestly, I've done it in a very instinctive way.
the history of Missoni is amazing. And as we all know it as a fashion house. What was the step that brought you to now venturing into real estate and development and having a residence?
Oh, let's say that interiors, for also the pact of interiors and hospitality, has always been part of my mother vision. I'm not saying my father, because my father was a guest in my mom's house always, right? And so it has always been my mom who decorated the house. The first collection she did for on interiors or collaboration for it was in 1974 with so it's been growing since then, and then it became a home collection with not only bath and linen, but with more fabrics and stuff. So it's there since long time. And she redecorate herself, her house every 2 years. She might redecorate her house with a new pattern. At the beginning, she was doing it with the fabrics from the Missoni collection, right? And then by the time, of course, she now does it with the proper fabric from the Missoni home collection. So we had the habit of living in the country. We always had the habit of hosting people a lot of time. And so we don't go to restaurants, and often people comes out to the house. So there is this hospitality side of the family. And this I really inherited also from my mother. So my house also, it's an evolution of my mom's. My mom is more maybe sophisticated. I have that side of maybe more kitsch, and I like more edgy things. But at the end, they're very colorful houses, and where everything is made to feel the other at home easy, and with no, how do you say? I don't know. I also decorate the house in a way that there is that everybody feels good in it. Yeah.
How did this collaboration with Oka Group and Kane International to build a luxury high-rise in Miami's Edgewater come about? And I want to hear from all of you. How did this project come about? What made you choose this neighborhood? Who wants a
somebody, Hani, who started? Because we came in probably in the already. We were not the first who came in. Maybe Hani came in the first one.
Okay, I can tell a little bit of the history. I mean, we had a meeting one day here with Vladislav Dororin, and Vlad had come to the meeting with his partners. And asked us, I'll never forget the meeting, it was actually kind of surreal. He had asked us to look at this project in Edgewater, this site that he was interested in. And from our point of view as architects, he had asked us if in fact it was something viable and interesting for our point of view as architects, would we be interested in designing such a building? And he was, but I remember he was extremely preoccupied, as he is, and he was always on his phone. Lisanne and I, my partner, had done a number of study models and feasibility studies for the site, and we were having trouble getting his attention because he was very preoccupied. And all of a sudden, one of the models on the table, we had a kind of, it had this sort of pearlescent glass on it or something. It was making a little bit of noise, I guess, visually. And he all of a sudden put the phone down and looked at it and said, "Is this my tower?" And I said, "Well, it's one of the options, but we could definitely move in this direction if you're interested." And that's how we started with him. It was really a matter of designing, and from the very beginning, the whole thinking was to design something on the Edgewater site because of its prominence and because it's on the water edge. That had a real presence and a uniqueness in Miami. And the very first discussions were really around the idea of it's interesting, to not do something highly sculptural or bombastic or noisy, but rather could we in fact, and this was sort of the premise, could we in fact produce something almost musical, demure, elegant, sophisticated, clean, and in that way, put something on the skyline that's actually a kind of in dialogue with Miami and in dialogue with the Miami of today and tomorrow, not necessarily the Miami of the past. And so that really was kind of the impetus. And we went from there into discussions on minimal sculptors like Donald Judd and Sol DeWitt. I started talking about one of my own heroes, an Argentinian artist called Jesus Soto, who actually was the reason I got into architecture in the first place. And we started talking about, mathematics, minimalist sculpture, and how to produce something so clean and beautiful that it could almost become, and this is interesting to listen to Angela talking the way she's talking, because I'm fascinated by her sort of ethos. And so what I realized we were doing before Angela came on board, and even before Paris came on board, or Enzo, was I knew that we were sort of setting, let's say, the room for an amazing party. and the question was, whom else could come to the party? Who's going to come to this place and contribute to the whole environment, the whole mise en scène, the whole philosophy? And sure enough, when Angela came in, as she just described, she starts to work up the place, let's say.
I started the party.
How this place could, so our job, and this same thing, and so Paris will speak for themselves, but the same thing with the other collaborators here, was that they're all brilliant designers and individuals. And so we thought, if we're going to produce a kind of a rock band together, can we get it in the right key? Can we produce the right kind of initiation so that as people came to this project, they're not coming in such, and you see this in other projects, and it's kind of unfortunate. Projects get to be kind of, there's a competition, and there's kind of a vying for noise or vying for attention. But the idea here was to find a harmonic resonance with all the collaborators so that in the end of the day, we produce something supremely elegant and sophisticated in the Miami context. And that was our goal. It was kind of almost a kind of a mission for us, because I have a reaction to Miami. Miami, in a way, the older Miami, let's say, or the kind of cliche of Miami, is this kind of party land. It's got this sort of like frivolity to it and so on. But the truth be told, it's an international city that's growing up very fast. It's very international. They're very sophisticated clientele and people coming there, working there. All my friends, other architects I know, are building interesting projects there now. And so the question was, could we in fact add to that equation and then sort of up the ante so that the Missoni Baia is not just a clean, beautiful, elegant statement. It's actually a kind of an indication of how Miami is maturing, how different people with different talents and skills and creativity can contribute to the future of Miami. And therefore this building becomes a kind of a litmus test for that. So we, to be very honest, we realized that our job as architects was not so much to produce something that's screaming architecture, but rather something that would be a beautiful canvas in which very, very sophisticated people could kind of operate within and contribute to and produce something and I think that's the beauty of this project, is that I think we'll see when it's completed that it'll resonate for people who live there, people who will visit it or see it. It'll resonate a kind of sophisticated elegance and a collaborative spirit of very, very interesting individuals who brought the best of what they can do to this place. And that's kind of, that's pointing to the future of Miami, I think. Hopefully to America too. Maybe we've said something about the future of America, but who knows these days, given what's going on.
Honey, for those that don't know the full extent of your work, can you please provide a brief background of your career, previous projects?
So Lisanne Couture and myself started this practice in Milano, actually, many years ago. When we began in Milan, we really were there to meet people like Angela, quite frankly. We were there to work within the kind of spirited intellectual fervor and power of that environment of Europe and Milan. I had known a couple of people at the time. Pierre Astani was a critic for Domus who was in Milan, who I spent time with. Arturo Schwartz, who wrote the definitive books on Duchamp. So I had these like heroes that I need to be around. I was a kid, quite frankly, right out of graduate school. But a couple of years into Milan, I realized not a place for stranieri, not a place for foreign architects, especially young, crazy foreign architects to practice. So we took our practice to New York City and had been here since then. And then we built over this period a number of interesting projects. I guess our most famous project is the Yas Marina Hotel in Abu Dhabi for the Formula One. Now, we've branched off. We do a lot of cultural work. We're doing at the moment a Hermitage Museum in Moscow, and a Hermitage Museum in Vladivostok, Russia, as well as a Chechnikov Museum. And today there's a meeting next door on the Mariinsky Theater we're doing also in Russia. And at the moment, believe it or not, we're doing a resort in Tuscany. So we kind of have a broad range of work that's going on. And we're doing a new hotel in Budapest. So we're quite busy with projects that have branched out of what started out as really an experimental avant-garde sort of radical practice when I was young and nuts into something that's now become sort of, the reason it's important that we started out young and crazy is that that the things that we experimented with in those years are now part of the mature work we're doing, and it's almost the creative collateral we built in the early days of our practice, that are now coming to the work. And the Missoni Baia, just to bring it back to that, contains a lot of conceptual and artistic thinking that's been behind a lot of the things we've done, but situated in such a way, as I said, that it's kind of a very mature work. It's not trying to make you sort of I am, or isn't it wonderful? It's more like there's math, there's science, there's physics, there's artistry, there's minimalism. There's a lot going in there that we've researched over many years now in this practice.
What is your vision for Missoni Baia? Are there any design aspects that are very special to you, or that you've done specifically because it's in Miami, on the water?
For me, yeah, it's a building, I believe, and this is why we looked at minimalist sculpture. It's a building that with the changing of light, atmosphere, and time, will constantly resonate against the skyline and create a kind of musical accompaniment to the city. So no matter what goes on around it, this building acts as a kind of has a harmonic resonance, let's say. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, and this is just to bring it back to earth a little bit, it was a building that pre-COVID, we were already discussing with Vlad and Oku, and eventually with all our collaborators here, how to produce, my notion for this building was villas in the sky. And when I said that to Vlad, it meant clean, floor through kind of glass volumes that are kind of situated up in the sky, which is a kind of dream, right? To have a glass villa in the sky. But that would also inspire, I remember we had an early meeting with marketing guys on this project, and I flew into Miami from New York. And I sat down in the meeting, I said to them, I just flew over the city, and everywhere I look, there are balconies. But nobody uses their balconies, right? I said, so what's the deal with balconies and real estate in Miami? And they said, you got to have it to sell the units. And I said, well, yeah, but nobody uses them. They said, well, you know, it's still. So then what we did is we kind of flipped that on his head and decided to do very large balconies that could almost be outdoor living rooms, and connect them seamlessly to your interior space and the floor-through units, especially, you know, with 3 floors per unit, per 3 units per floor. And so now in this post-COVID kind of period, the balcony is so important. Outdoor living is so important. It's kind of interesting that almost by virtue of saying, look, you know, balcony should be more than just storing bicycles and plants. It needs to be a living space. And so this idea of outdoor seamless connection to the interior architecturally is extremely important as part of that. So basically that was it. The vision was to place these villas, have privacy. It was another thing we did pre-COVID. We said, well, we should have private elevators if we can get them. It's kind of difficult logistically, but we've managed. They're keyed and you can go to your unit in this building effectively without necessarily sharing the ability with anybody, and the way that it's all being planned core-wise. So I think those are things that were just kind of intuitively correct to do, but have seemed to prove themselves as extremely important now as we move forward in these kind of places.
I want to go to Paris and ask you about your vision for the interiors for the Missoni Baia. I think it's
okay. So first thing we think about for any project in the interiors is the building that it's in, right? And we have this beautiful modern, you know, ground up tower. It's like this sort of sail on the edge of the water, right? So we're going to do something modern and clean. So working with Asymptote's beautiful sort of expansive glass villas, as he's calling them. And then there's also our client, Vladislav Doronin, who at the time when we were working on this, he just finished the Amman resort in Japan, and he was really focused on that style, which is very clean, very elegant. So the inspiration for the interiors was, you know, clean, light, you know, airy, elegant, sort of the things that Hani's talking about, which I think was the perfect sort of backdrop for Masoni. I mean, Masoni is like wild and colorful and crazy. So by creating this very light, clean, you know, luxurious space, was sort of this perfect palette to insert this, you know, beautiful Masoni world. So that was kind of our inspiration. So we're drawing from Asymptote's architecture. We're drawing from our client, who has this very sophisticated design sensibility, Vladislav, and we're, you know, pulling that together and then creating a background for the Masoni. So that was kind of how we handled that.
Well, tell us about your scope of work. Give us a brief background on your career, please.
Okay, yeah, okay, so background on my career. So I'm Australian. I studied in Australia, studied design, but yeah, after finish, I took a gap year. We do that in Australia. I went to Europe and traveled for the year and was completely inspired by spaces and design. So came back, studied design at university, did some work in Australia, but then as a designer, as a young designer, you just want to come to New York. So I went with one suitcase to New York. That was in 2003. I never came back. Obviously, I did to visit. But I worked with some great designers, first a hospitality designer, Tahani, then Setra Ruddy, and then I started my own firm in 2012. And we're really known for residential. We do private residences, you know, all of the design and the decorating, and also these fantastic multi-family buildings. And we're doing those sort of all over the world, all over the United States, Sweden, Toronto. So that's, yeah, a little bit about us and what we do.
Thank you. For all of the aspects of the Missoni building, do you have a favorite and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the interior, and again, the amenity spaces and program is fantastic. And I think now that people are staying at home more and working from home, these amenity spaces are really going to be used. So we designed them beautifully, and obviously our client, Vladislav, and his Amman pedigree, we were going to do a fantastic spa. So I think the spa for the building is going to be like no other multifamily building I've worked on. And again, he was working on the Aman in Tokyo when we were doing this. So it's very clean, very elemental, you know, with a real rigor to, you know, scale and proportion and materiality. And it, you know, beautiful backdrop for, you know, inserting these beautiful wild Missoni towels and color. And but yeah, I think the spa is going to be something really special.
Thank you so much, Paris. I want to talk to Enzo about the vision for the landscape design of Missoni. Please.
Okay. Well,
For the project.
I'm starting with the philosophy. Our philosophy is always to begin with the spirit of the place. We call it the genius logi. By understanding the site context and the client's goals of the project. And we then work to incorporate architecture and interior designers' design character to unify the project with the fabric of the landscape and plant material, which will enhance the overall design. All these actions we take is the present. In the present have one goal for the future, to create values for generation. And so we try to, let's say, embrace the architecture as much as possible and to integrate it towards the spaces that we read. So Missoni Baia's, let's say, brand and the architect's vision of a jewel box in the garden by incorporating plants with waves of colors, integration of the fabrics in the furnishings, and the iconic chevron pattern in the children's splash pond. So we try to read all this and integrate it with plants and colorful, let's say, also flowers that are blooming. The building's architecture, along with Missoni's brand, is contemplated in the shapes, patterns, and spaces designed throughout the project. On the bay side, Missoni has a grand outdoor terrace with a unique opportunity overlooking the bay, which is integrated seamlessly into residential lawn and gardens, all of which is elevated above the grade of this site. And the amenity deck we proposed on elevated full Olympic size pool in an alley of pitch apple trees and soft grasses. So we incorporate, let's say, this lushness that, let's say, the building has a certain rigidity or strong, let's say, architecture that we soften up with the planting material. So that's the more or less the design that we brought in.
It's a beautiful design. Tell us about your career, your highlights, what have you done prior to joining this?
I'm an industrial designer, and I studied in England landscape architecture, and then I took over my father's building. He built up a handcrafted company for pots in Switzerland. And I took over in 1993 with 2 people, and now we are 280 people working all over the world. We have an office in New York, in Miami, since 18 years now. And we're running 50 projects at the same time worldwide in different areas, in different climate zones. Some milestones are the 1000 Museum with Zaha Hadid that we just finished now. Then we work with also with Bulgari in Beijing. We just finished the hotel. Then we are doing a project with the 11th Björk Ingels in New York. Palazzo della Luna, Fisher Island at the moment. So, and I have a tree museum that is the only tree museum in the world with a collection of trees that I replanted, 100 years old trees that I collected. I found out a way to move all trees, and that's let's say that's my my rave that I have, that I work in, and that I spend a lot of time now during my COVID time here. So let's say I'm quite happy to be in Switzerland a bit more longer than normally, and I get some new ideas. Well, I think to understand the space and the architecture, to read it as good as possible, and to embrace it. Like I said, you know, it's always the way you read things and you interpret it towards a design, and find solutions for the plants and trees that you're choosing. So they have to work, and they have to prosper for the place, and it's not a decoration, it's an integration towards the space, and that's important.
Since this building is based in Florida, have you incorporated some sustainable foliage or plants that are native to Florida?
Well, this site is directly on the water, and to thrive in the environmental condition of the salt and wind, native plant species must be used. All the bay walk, we propose coconut palms, mahogany, and green bottomwood trees, which can withstand these tough conditions. And on the elevated amenities, wind is always a concern. We propose sea grape and peach apple trees. As such, the physical materials must be durable and appropriate, and the plant materials must thrive within the local climate. So Aeneas designs are timeless for the generations to come. That's what we want to achieve. And like I said, we're really trying to study the place before we design it, and so we work with people from the place that understand what kind of winds we have, how much sun hours do we have on the space, and this gives us the possibility to choose the right plants for the right place.
What have you enjoyed most about working with this group of creatives behind this project? What has been the most fun aspect of the project for you?
Well, this time I was pleased by the colors, actually, I have to say. And I was, I think for an Italian boy like me, to work with Missoni, it's such a big brand. I mean, my mother was wearing Missoni when she went out on Sundays, you know, and she had one jacket. And I think this is something that I really enjoyed a lot. And also to work with these great architects, I think this is something that gives us, you know, that pushes us sidewise to create something strong that has a certain value.
Thank you very much for that, Enzo. I want to go back to Honey and ask you a question regarding to the design. Has the global pandemic affected or evolved the design for Missoni Baia in terms of more people living and working from home?
Well, like I said, I think we're fortunate that in our design process we had, you know, anticipated many things that we're now seeing are very real and very important to think about. I mean, and I guess the reason they were anticipated is that, you know, and this is just my take on this whole COVID nightmare for all of us, is that the world was overheating anyway, right? We felt like, we all felt in all of our disciplines that we had to pay more attention to environmental sustainability. We had to pay more attention to nature, to well-being, to the human condition. And I think that was a sense that we all were getting. It's just a giant reality check when a plague hit us to say, you know, yeah, we are overheating, too much fossil fuel burning, even my own lifestyle. I mean, and so I'm sure more so than me, the amount of, all of us, the amount of flying we did, the amount of, you know, our carbon footprints are insane. You know, if you think about the things that we were up against, and that's just one aspect. There's another side, which is interesting, is that, here in New York, I ride my bike into my office. I always have, but now I ride in like a kind of mock Munich because all of a sudden all the restaurants are outside, covered in plants. And there's this kind of civility to the urbanism, whereas before I was getting doored by taxis and people screaming at me. Now I'm riding by people in outdoor cafes, at least as the weather was okay. So it's kind of been this interesting correction, right? Like we need to rethink our cities, rethink our space, rethink our attitude to the planet. Enzo's always been thinking that way, so he's way ahead of the curve. But I think for all of us to really consider the future in a very serious way has become very real. Now, in the Baia project, because we were already thinking about these things pre-pandemic, like I said before, the idea of the ground floor, for example, being, as Paris had said very, very, aptly, that the amenities and the public spaces are large, robust. It's social distancing was almost part of the project prior to us even knowing what that word meant, or was even in the playbook, let's say. The ample balconies I spoke about, the aeration, these kind of floor to ceiling glass doors that open into these decks and so on, was really a kind of environmental solution as well, about needing less air conditioning and having cross ventilation, which is an old primitive idea in cities and architecture that's been known for a long time. But we got so used to having air conditioners, the minute the temperature is not good, we turn them on. So that's also part of it. So, I mean, the building is under construction. It's under construction during COVID. It's continued, which I have to say I'm amazed and I'm very happy to see, because I hope everyone's okay. But I think that the anticipatory stuff that went into it prior was actually smart of us, and also Vlad and Oku Group and everybody to have considered, even without really knowing yet that we had these kind of parameters now that have come into play. For example, on the Tuscan resort I'm doing, it stopped because of COVID. Then our clients, we thought, were not going to work with us anymore. We thought hospitality in Italy must be not a project people want to do. But they've come back, and our discussions in that project are fascinating, because we've shifted entirely the discussion from some of the older tenets and parameters of luxury resorts to an entirely new set of paradigms and definitions of what makes luxury, which is sort of, as I said, things we anticipated, but now we're actually having to put them pen to paper and really look at these things very seriously. So yeah, I think it's this massive wake-up call that we're all experiencing is really interesting. And my biggest point on it, quite frankly, and I think Missoni Baia is a kind of proof of a concept or proof of a theorem, which is it's all going to depend for all of us as creatives and in every discipline, what we take from this and how we see this correction making things better as we go forward. Because the worst thing that can possibly happen is that we all go back to life as usual in a way, right? Without actually considering what are the lessons learned here. And I tell you, every morning when I wake up in my home in Brooklyn and look out over the East River to Manhattan, I am so amazed at the level of the oxygen in the atmosphere, that I don't have planes and helicopters buzzing above my head. And that there's a kind of the city is kind of coming, and there's a lot of birds and animals all of a sudden. And this is, I think Miami also needs to pay attention to this, because Miami is such a beautiful part of the world, with such amazing natural resources and qualities, that I think it's an interesting moment to sort of take stock and consider, how we move forward in the world and how we take the right things from this experience, not the wrong things. You're muted, I believe.
Thank you. I'm gonna take this moment and share the video that we were trying to share earlier. If you give me a moment, I'm gonna play it for you. Here we go. I think the building is absolutely stunning. Angela, I want to hear more about the behind this beautiful new addition to our skyline from you.
Oh my God, I was very much impressed with the, of course, with the design of the building, with the allure of the building. First of all, I'm myself a fanatic of architecture. I've always been, I have always had a big attraction for pure architecture, from all the modernist period. I have how my house is quite a modernist house. This factory where I'm in, it's been built in the 70s by an architect. It was very close to that spirit, and it still is. So I'm very much fascinated by beautiful, clean places, because then I can fill them in with color and stuff. So I need a blank canvas, right? But I need a beautiful blank canvas, not a simple one, very luxurious, and I have the habit from, I need view myself. So we have view from the factory. We have view, I still call it factory. I should call it like the Missoni headquarters today. And there is view from my parents' house over the mountain. We're living between Milano and Varese, and in the middle of the lake area, up on hills, and we really have beautiful view over this mountain that we call the Pink Mountain, because it's called the Pink Mountain. And we all in the family have kind of addiction to views. So the view from the factory, the view from my parents' house, the view from my house. I do have another house. I need long distance view. And this, when I saw this building and the view you can have from every floor, it's amazing. It's really, it gives you breath. I don't know, you breath. You can wake up in the morning and feel, it's like already you feel like if you already have meditated, even if you don't meditate, let's say it this way, right? You wake up and you say, wow, yes, here I am.
Yes, I'm sitting in the sales centers and the views are unobstructed water views. I'm sure it's a rainy day today in Miami, but on a clear day, I could see the beach from where I'm sitting. So it definitely has nothing but views. There's nothing obstructing it from where I'm sitting.
And the second thing is also very important. When I met Enzo also, and I saw his project for the gardens, for the outside, because this is the other part. We are addicted to green also. We live in the country with the building of the Missoni headquarters has been built at the end of the 60s in the middle of wood, with this amazing view, because my father decided that if he had to build a factory and if he had to work in a place a big part of his day, he wanted to work in a place he would have loved to spend his weekend in, right? So the choice of the places was very advanced for the time. So we really have a very high quality of life, and the green and gardens are really part of making of making the life of enhancing the life quality.
Absolutely. I mean, Enzo, I mean, you worked on some amazing projects here in Miami. You mentioned 1000 Museum, you mentioned Fisher Island. We understand how big of a component, you know, the landscape architecture is to those projects. So what you brought to Missoni Baia is very special. Tell me why Miami? Why did you choose Miami as the city to first bring Missoni?
Why I choose Miami? I think it's long. Well, it started actually with the design district. When they built the design district, I was invited to build a garden in the middle of the design district. There was nothing. There was just these old fabrics, and in the middle, I built a garden in between parking lots. And so then it was the opening of the Art Basel, and the design started first time to be there in the design district as an opening evening. And I got the chance, I built a jewelry box. Oh. And this jewelry box was filled with a forest, with a green forest. And I was driven at that time because I thought it was a bit political, actually, because I thought that if the world is going the way it goes, we have to build places that are made up by humans, but we don't have a natural place anymore. So they're all builded places like we do now, you know, like that's what's happening at the moment. And so this was my first impact in Miami. And for me, I think it's a place where I look at a little bit like a young couple discovering possibilities of the world, inviting friends from all parts of the world and backgrounds to have a good time and create and build new chances. I admire art, therefore. Miami puts a smile in my heart for a long time. As a landscape architect, the place with its years-round semi-tropical climate is free of extremes, and with its rich and unique flora gives us plenty of inspiration. And some of the most demanding, but also rewarding projects. The rise of investment, population, and worldwide attraction makes this place sought after as it is today. So I think Miami has a big chance, and I think with the culture, with the art that came in, it's also important that Miami is embracing the art and work with it in a cultural way, to build up a beautiful city that I think they are on a good way. And so this is why I think it's a chance for us to work in a tropical, let's say, environment, and have a city that is developing in a fast, let's say, you know, there were, since the last 15 years, a lot happened, you know. And I saw it as a chance. That's why I came over there and built up my office. And since 3 years, we are in New York now, and we are trying to get space in New York to build gardens there, and landscape and outdoor living spaces to help get more quality of life. And I think that's important. And you know, the UV, the sun is getting stronger every year. It's getting harder, so we need shadow, we need microclimate, we have to work with the buildings together. I think that's a very important moment for us landscapers. And yeah, this is why I think it's an important place for us, Miami.
Miami is a very outdoor city. which is why we almost move here, right? We have beautiful weather, I would say 80% of the year, where we're spending all of our time outdoors. But since pandemic also, we're also spending a lot more time inside. So Paris, I have a question for you. With the pandemic and so many people spending and working from home, has that affected your design, not only with Missoni Baia, but with other clients, but specifically with Missoni Baia, thinking about the climates that we have here all year round, and us spending more time? I work from home, so it's important. So has that affected your?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on, lots of multifamily projects at the moment, and it's definitely at the fore of every discussion. People are working from home, and people are going to continue working from home, even when there's a vaccine and this is hopefully over. So, we're creating spaces and amenities that are conducive to that. Huddle rooms, phone booths, people are in their apartment buildings and at home. There was sort of a trend in the early 2000s for these kind of open loft spaces, and that was kind of trending out. Now it's over, right? People want articulated spaces where they can have some privacy, be on a Zoom call, shut that door away from, children or family members. So yeah, the way we lay out space is changing due to this. There's also on sort of a more, pragmatic level, we're doing lots more touchless faucets. People are a lot more conscious of germs now, and that's sort of, I think, going to be ingrained in people's psyches. It's not going to go away. So touchless flush, touchless faucets, doors. Yeah, it's definitely informing the way we design. And interesting, with Honey talking about the indoor outdoor, I'm from Australia, and the architecture there and the architects and designers there really have nailed that. Just opening up a house and having the outside come in, we have the climate for it. And so does Miami. So I think it's fantastic that at Baia, there are these beautiful livable terraces. You don't just put one stool on it. You put a whole living room out there, and you can open up and enjoy that. Enjoy the outdoors and that, wonderful, expansive view. So yeah, but yet we're definitely changing the way we design on every sort of level. Yeah.
Angela, I want to bring this back to you. I asked Enzo this question, but I also wanted to ask you, why Miami? Why did you choose Miami?
Why Miami?
Yes.
Miami, because if I had to, oh my God, I got my batteries is running out. Hold on. I'm on my iPad, sorry. And so why? Because Miami is Miami. It's always been a dream place, right? To relax, to have your vacation. But during the time, it became a real city. In the past 20 years, it's a livable city where you can have a very good quality of life and live there all year round while working or while doing many other while doing your profession. Yes, so it's a city. It's a city with a high level of quality, life quality. So yeah, that's the point. And I thought that for Missoni, it really enhanced that sense that we had, so that you can live in a different, there is a different way of living. You can live with a different approach today and have a quality, putting your quality, the life quality ahead in front. Yeah.
I want to thank all of you for joining us. Today was awesome. This was great, so informative. I'm so excited to have Missoni Baia in Miami. It's really going to make our skyline a little prettier than it already is. It's a beautiful building. Honey, thank you so much for joining us from Brooklyn. It was awesome to hear from you. Enzo, a real pleasure. And now every time I go to these other spots in Miami, I'm going to think of you. Paris, thank you for joining us. And Angela, thank you. It was an honor and a real pleasure to
It's a pleasure.
have this conversation.
Thank you.
Have a
Pleasure
great.
to see you. Hope to see you soon, all of you. For
Looking
real, right?
Ciao, Angela.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.